if this player was to follow the official customer support given to them, ostensibly by a human support agent, we'll see if that's really true later on, then they would have actually wasted hours upon hours of their own time with a bad solution that didn't help their core problem, which was losing a almost uncalculable amount of progress on their character. Now, do you know what would be really odd? If one day I just phoned you on your private number, that would be odd. But guess what? There's a fair chance I could. Perhaps because your insurance provider was hacked. You see, that just happened to Allianz Life Insurance just last month on the 16th of July, when hackers used social engineering to breach the third-party cloud system and get personally identifiable data on the majority of their 1.4 million customers. Now, that data can end up in the hands of data brokers, and through those data brokers, people who don't have your best interests in mind can get your information. And that's why I use today's sponsor, Incogni, because they are our way to fight back. Because when data leaks, brokers harvest it up and sell it on. If you ever wonder why spam callers are able to get your number, it's often that. And Incogni solves the problem by automating the legal work you would otherwise have to do. And the best news is, at incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft, you get 60% off an annual plan. And here's how it works. You get the plan, you enter your info, and you're done. That is it. You see, you've got a legal right to have your data taken down, but doing that actually takes hours. It takes you filing things, and it's not permanent. So once Incogni gets your data, they automatically scan the brokers, they send the takedown request, they add you to suppression lists, they do it all automatically, and they rescan so your data is kept down. And to take a look at my progress, 206 sent, 12 are in progress, 194 completed, and I'm on 23 suppression lists. That, folks, is peace of mind, and at incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft, you can get peace of mind. It'll be 60% off as well with the annual plan if you follow my links, so check them out, and a big thank you to them for supporting the show. Hey Blizzard, we need to have a talk again because your customer support just lied to a player. Now, am I necessarily talking to Blizzard as in the developers, the frontline staff that almost certainly do really care about the game? No, this is overall about big systems and strategies and really things that probably came from Microsoft or Blizzard corporate. If it was only a single story, I wouldn't cover it. I would think, okay, maybe this is an outlier. But the truth is, I've been reading your comments for months, for years, and a constant thing that comes up is people feeling that customer support has really just fallen off the deep end. I've especially seen recent reports of that. It's what we'll talk about today, but first, here's the inciting incident. Here's how this all started. So, a little while ago, Microsoft decided to do massive organization-wide cuts. We don't know specifically how many people were dropped from Blizzard Entertainment. We know it was 9,000 people overall, and we know that somewhere under 4,500 were from the Xbox division. But we at least do know for sure that the World of Warcraft social media team was essentially taken out the back and shot. They were cut quite brutally. We did a video about that. That video really did pop off. And one of the big points of that video is World of Warcraft is a premium game experience. It shouldn't have marketing with poor copywriting and stuff that honestly just kind of looks like it's worthy of a mobile game. A bad one at that. But in that video, a comment caught our eye. In fact, many of them did. Many of them were about customer service. But this is the one I'm choosing to highlight today. It's got 1.1k likes. It's from Felbud Protocol. And he reports his awful experience, right? He calls the customer support system fake. He reports that they send you a template response, that they don't read replies, that they just close tickets early, I guess to, make the KPI go up, and that they've, quote, given up on assisting players, but still want to fake that they have a support tool, which is pretty rough. But where today's story gets interesting is a reply. Here it is. Just yesterday, my friend opened a ticket about losing Battle for Azeroth Rep. The response he got back was AI-generated slop. And here's where it gets interesting. We almost know for sure that that friend is Valavi, who is a Redditor. They went to Reddit, they posted the response that they got. But before we check in, let's take a look at Blizzard's official fix. Put yourself in Valavi's shoes. You have just lost all of your Battle for Azeroth reputations. That's something that you've probably ground out for dozens and dozens and dozens of hours on. But hey, don't worry. Blizzard's legendary customer support is here, and they have a fix. Here's what you've got to do. You've got to travel to Gruken Hill. Yes, that's in Pandaria, and we're talking about BFA rep, but don't worry. You've got to travel to Gruken Hill. Then you've got to find the mailbox, and then you've got to fly across the mailbox, and then turn around and fly back over the mailbox. And each time you do that, you'll get 1,000 rep. That certainly sounds like a weird tactic, but what if I told you the CS agent actually knew it was a weird tactic? They said, I found a workaround. It sounds quirky, but here goes. So Valve has this strange experience, and they then decide to share that with good people over at r/wow. Okay, take a look at this. It's the Reddit post that absolutely soared up. And when you actually read the GM response that's there, I mean, it's clearly wrong. It's so bizarre. One of them, I'll just go through some highlights here. It starts with some very strange language. This is Game Master, whatever their name is happy to assist you today. Gotta say, that is some very odd use of English there. That's not really how we do the words. Now, a state-of-the-art large language model, say a ChatGPT o3 or a Claude Opus, would not make that sort of mistake. Seriously, it would not. So clearly, this is written by a human. And honestly, that actually does tell us something about how this has almost certainly been outsourced. Now, the info that it gives is obviously insane. No human that actually knows World of Warcraft would make a mistake like that. Battle for Azeroth is not Mr. Pandaria. Under no universe would that method work. And if you want an explanation here, I can at least say my working theory is this is human CS heavily using AI, with the actual human not really knowing that much about World of Warcraft. And there really are a few AI smoking guns here. One of them is, I want you to know you aren't alone in this. Which, look, that's one of those things that the language models really like to do. And if you want another example of like how to spot peak AI, you need only take a look at this banging tweet from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, who, is kind of the man behind all of this. So he said this, 25 days, 5 battles, scores tied 2-2. This isn't just a game. EM-. It's test cricket in all its timeless glory. Now, here's the thing, everyone. You see that this is not X, it is Y. That is an extremely common pattern that we see, and it's no surprise that the replies to that tweet are a mixture of people who are fooled and therefore are just talking about some banging cricket, and people who are saying, it's not X, it's Y. Obviously, kind of know what's up there. Bringing it back to this customer support thing, suffice it to say, there are a few little just examples of something really looking quite AI generated. And the funny thing is, when they say, I want you to know you're not alone in this, it does have the funny side effect of really making the problem seem huge. And to me, it basically feels like a large language model with a system prompt that is designed basically to glaze people up and to try to look like it's extremely emotionally intelligent. And big picture, what you see in this writing is just an awful signal-to-noise ratio. So it's a bad response in just about every way. Especially, of course, the fact that it's literally not helpful whatsoever. It's actually the opposite of that. It will lead to your customer wasting time. And I have to imagine that's the sort of thing someone would unsub over. Now, when we go to the replies, we see quite a lot else. As an example, half of CleanXTS's group apparently didn't get a Wrath Classic achievement. So they made a ticket, customer support ticket. And in the ticket, they referenced the Wowhead guide that they used to get this achievement. The customer support agent then responded by linking them the Wowhead guide back and telling them they needed to follow the exact steps. Now, that's the same guide that CleanXTS sent the GM. Of course, the point being that they followed the guide, half the people got credit and apparently the other half didn't. Who knows, maybe it could be a mistake, but it certainly doesn't seem that helpful. Moving on then, we've got this post from Wolfhard, and look, if true, this is an absolute banger. So they suspected AI and they say they replied, "You can stop acting like a human," only to get a reply, "I was instructed never to break character." If true, and pics if true, God, that would be funny, even though obviously pictures could be faked. Now, what I would like to do is maybe break down one thing that's in your head, which I can just imagine is, what the fuck, Lamau? As in, how the hell did this happen? How did somebody who had a problem with Battle for Azeroth get told to go to Pandaria? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are saying this is an AI hallucination, that the model just invented it out of nowhere. No, this is actually not a hallucination. It is based on this forum post that's linked. Basically, what had happened is that using level sync would reset someone's reputation with the forest hosen, right? And then when you continue to quest, you wouldn't earn that rep back. Now, this is a pretty rough progression blocking bug because with the wrong reputation, well, the quest NPCs will be hostile to you. And yes, apparently the solution was to fly back and forth over the mailbox. So this was a real thing. It's just completely not related to this specific user's problem. Therefore, it's very bizarre that it turned up in a customer support scenario. So, is the CS real or is it fake? Well, I'd certainly say if it's 100% AI, it is poorly made. We've been able to do things like document retrieval for a very long time. I think they call it RAG, but anyway, LLMs that are particularly good at tool use, like Anthropic's Claude series, should actually do quite well here. So if they do have some sort of AI solution where the customer support agent can just copy someone's complaint, put it into a box and say, find me a solution, my god, they really must have cheaped out on that system. What actually does make a little bit more sense to me is that this is actually a post from a human. And I do have reasons for that. But of course, I do think this is a human using LLMs. When I actually look at the quality of writing, you can see things that just the modern models would not do. It feels very much like someone who's got English as their second language is using a very basic, like, improve this writing sort of little tool or whatever it is in the UI that they do their customer support tickets with. Then there's the actual information provided. Again, that feels like someone who does not know World of Warcraft using an internal AI tool to fetch information related to the user's request. Of course, if the human doesn't actually know much about World of Warcraft, and if the AI tool is completely generic and therefore not really, I won't even do the stuff basically not set up for WoW, then yeah, that would kind of make sense. Someone in a generic outsourcing customer support company just uses their internal tools, gets an answer, slaps it in, calls it a day, doesn't really care about giving the person an amazing experience, and yes, they don't even know that they did something as preposterous as telling someone to fly about a mailbox in Pandaria because their BFA wraps broke. And I'd say this also explains the Wrath of the Lich King Classic report that I covered a little bit ago, because that's Wrath Classic. That happened years ago, before our LLMs were as capable and as deeply integrated in so many of these companies. Because look, the truth here is, Blizzard's customer support has been getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for years upon years. So yeah, I'm hardly surprised that, say, something really cheap or just some outsourcing was responsible for that Wrath Classic report. And obviously, if you have had negative customer support experiences with Blizzard, of course, with this premium game that you're paying money for and should expect a premium, respectful, useful, helpful response from, then do please tell me in the comments. I really want to see user reports on this. But let's go deeper. Okay, listen up, especially if you are a decision maker at Blizzard Entertainment who is more in, the managerial sense and has a mind that only thinks of the quantitative. Well, this will probably work for you. There's a rather famous quote: "The purpose of a system is what it does." Now, that emerges from a discipline that is called systems thinking, and systems thinking is amazing. It helps us not get lost talking about parts and details that don't matter. Instead, it has us thinking about the whole and has us thinking about the outputs. And to this, enter Stafford Beer. Now, he's a fairly interesting dude, but one of the things he's quite well known for is that phrase: "The purpose of a system is what it does." You might be thinking, okay, what is that? Sounds neat, but I don't really understand. It's actually really, really simple. The point of that is to absolutely obliterate the sheer cope that corporate morons like to huff to keep themselves deluded and perhaps keep themselves alive with what they do. And to spell out literally, I've got a quote that really does capture it, so here goes. Quote, "There's no point in claiming that the purpose of a system is to do what it consistently fails to do." I think you can see how, oh boy, that really does apply here. Blizzard customer support is not customer support. It increasingly seems like our commenter Felbud from earlier in the video is right, and I'll remind you of what they said. Quote, "It feels like they've completely given up on actually assisting players, but still want to fake that they have a support tool. And so I say to you, the purpose of the system is what it does. The system provides the illusion of support. That is its purpose. To believe otherwise is sheer cope and delusion." But guess what? If you're one of my corporate friendos over at Blizzard or Microsoft, well, this video is actually going to be even less fun now. So, World of Warcraft is a premium product. It is also what we would call a fat-tailed product, which is to say that a lot of the returns you get are very much in the future. Now, World of Warcraft attracts customers who are happy to spend money, and those are some of the best customers you can get. I mean, seriously, you do not want to be stuck running a free-to-play game having to deal with all the problems that come with free-to-play. Now, the customer service experience here feels like it's a shitty free-to-play game, not a premium product. Also, this customer support, whether it is internal or it is just some white-labeled external shit, well, it is Blizzard branded, so to an end user, it is a reflection of Blizzard's values and focus. That means the performance of this will inform how people view the Blizzard brand. And in case you haven't noticed, even though WoW has genuinely done way better, and even Overwatch has had quite a lot of wins lately, well, the Blizzard brand really has not been rehabilitated. It appears there's no amount of wheeling out Chris Metzen that can magically do that. And the reason why is obvious. These problems have nothing to do with Chris Metzen, or Holly Longdale, or Ian Hazacostas, or Morgan Day, or any of the people that you could probably immediately think of when you think World of Warcraft. They're likely not the people who make the big budgetary calls on these sorts of things. Now, this is all about the corpo decision-making, and you've probably heard another little phrase. I know it's been a bit of a quote-heavy video. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk to you about synergistically pursuing blue sky opportunities to maximize shareholder return. Anyway, no. What gets measured gets managed. We've all heard that quote. And if the people who are running the customer service have got KPIs, key performance indicators, or perhaps OKRs, objectives and key results, that are all about tickets closed, or percentage of tickets closed, or average wait time of a ticket, then guess what? Those will be optimized for, and tickets will be closed even though your customers are unhappy. And that is how, in a systemic way, by influencing the incentives, you end up with customer support experiences like the ones that people constantly tell me. But Blizzard doesn't seem to see this as a big problem, even though they should. Take a look at this. This is an exit survey. You'll note there is no clear customer support option. Of course, the intent would be that Other would fill something like that. But there's an obvious problem. Other asks the user to put in extra effort to write a whole bunch of words. Will they really do that, especially when they're going through an annoying form on a thing they're trying to cancel? I would certainly think not. Now, Blizzard, this is why you cannot trust your own data. And again, this is why the quantitative stuff is useful, but can be deeply misleading. As an example, Blizzard have long said that class changes would very often be a driver of unsubscriptions. But what if the class changes are only the straw that broke the camel's back? What if that player actually lost faith that their class feedback would be actioned? Maybe because they got a bunch of bad customer support experiences. You may never be able to trace that user had bad customer support experiences, and you may think that it's the class changes that are the sole reason why they left. That's not what the reality would be, because humans are complex, and we don't just make a call based on one single thing. And even if we say the prime reason is a class change, well, maybe if we had a better opinion of the company, a better view of the brand, then that one thing would not have crossed the threshold of an unsub. And my final point, and this is one that does actually impact some of the Blizzardy people that I would know because this is the product that they're running. Look, focusing on fast money is dangerous, right? And I mean, in a way, right? Say with our channels, I could try to focus on fast money, but I know that would be a terrible move. It's why I talked about how some things are fat-tailed in their returns, and we should be cognizant of that and maybe focus on those because that's the most aligned with a delightful customer experience. Now, your customer lifetime value matters so much more than any amount of money you could get in 1 or 2 months. Obviously. I mean, yes, I know the individual business units have all got to have strong P&L, blah. Set that aside, let's talk about the big picture. So if you pump up your game with cosmetics, with WoW Token, with all your pre-order bonuses, but then you're delivering an awful customer support experience, people will feel undervalued. And that's because you are a premium product, right? And a premium product demands premium support. That's just the way that it is, because you're dealing with people. And there's a problem here. You see, Xbox is, in its DNA, a B2B business. right? It's Microsoft, an enterprise software company, and a cloud infrastructure company, etc., etc. And the way it works with those, and you've probably seen, if you've looked at any SaaS tool, you'll have the like basic, pro, team, and then enterprise. And one of the things you'll see listed under enterprise features will be premium customer support. Because in the world of B2B, the only way you get good customer support is if you are a high-ticket client, and that's the sort of thing that they will optimize around. These big enterprise companies, they can focus on humongous contracts with individual clients. The problem about Blizzard Entertainment is they are games as a service, B2C, business to customer, and that very much is a more one-to-many relationship. You'll have so many customers, each one being of a lower value. Very different dynamic to what you see in the B2B SaaS market. So, in a case like that, you need a fundamentally different force structure, culture, systems, etc., to design a customer support experience that fits being a large games as a service that is premium. And the problem is, that's kind of expensive. Yeah, it is kind of expensive. And maybe you could harness AI to actually make that useful, to make some cool internal tools or things that can help your team or better triage customer experience, whatever it is. Maybe you can innovate there. But the core point is, the core problem perhaps is, you could immediately say, oh, why the hell would we do that? Why would we do that? That would cost so much money. This is where I would say, it is fat-tailed, right? You do not do this expecting an immediate return. You do this because your brand has value. Your customer relationship has got value. You're a game with millions of customers who have probably got lifetime values in the multiple thousands of dollars. So in a world like that, you need to focus on the fat tail. And one of the reasons why Blizzard got itself into this whole sticky situation of being a massive company that people used to love is because they were loved for a reason. They were loved because you would actually have a game master teleport to you. I mean, even take my customer service experiences. Very often, here I would be in Northern Ireland. Do you know where my customer support agent would be? A few miles down the road in Cork, because they actually had amazing, industry-leading customer service. And it is one of the things that always ingratiated me to the company, where I kind of thought, wow, they're really doing that cool. And I don't doubt there are individual CS agents, and there are people in the company who believe, who bleed blue, who want this to be great. And you know what? If not for your players, well, they're the people you need. They are the bedrock of your culture. If you undervalue their work, if you make it feel like they are just fighting against an infinite tide of slop, where quality of work similar to what we've highlighted today, where that is acceptable, well, they'll just leave and go to somewhere else. They'll leave and they'll go to a company that values its customers. Now, I have no doubt that the people working on World of Warcraft, making decisions in World of Warcraft, value customers. I mean, as an example, every time I've done an interview with like Ian or Holly, they immediately strike me as warm, friendly people who do actually get it. Seriously, like that's the person-to-person vibe that I get. And you know what? I think that actually demonstrates the problem. That this is not about finding someone and taking their head off and putting it in a spike and going, look at this, big consequences. No. Even if you're good, it doesn't matter. The actual problem is the system. And as I'm sure I've beaten into you today, well, the purpose of the system is what it does. We don't have customer support. We have customer fobbing off, customer management, customer brushing under the rug teams. So there we go. What a fun video. To be honest, I do actually love talking about topics like this. It's pretty much why our entire other channel, Bellular News, exists. So if you want more stuff like this, head over there. Until then, I'll see you all at the mailbox in Pandaria.